I am here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, the two biggest draws in Canadian combat sports television, and we have lots to discuss. Dana White did some interviews and had a lot to say about Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. Let's start off with Ronda Rousey. She underwent minor knee surgery on Wednesday to get her knee scoped, and it's now been ruled out. She will not be fighting in November at Madison Square Garden. Dana White throwing out a target of either December or early 2017. I think that's a big blow to that Madison Square Garden card, and I think you're looking at all these different options here, and that's one less option you have for Madison Square Garden.
Sure, but luckily New York has a ton of high-level fighters. I know Chris Weidman also having to deal with surgery. He's hoping to get on that card.
Big difference between those two.
I understand.
Drawing-wise.
I understand, but what we have to do, if you don't have Ronda Rousey or if you don't have Conor McGregor, you got to stack the card with as many fighters from New York and New Jersey as humanly possible. That's why, fingers crossed, if you're John Jones and you get past Daniel Cormier, he's on that card. Chris Weidman's on the card. Frankie Edgar's on the card. There's a lot of talented fighters from New York, New Jersey. If you can't have some of the biggest stars on your roster, you put some of the biggest stars from the area on the card.
You know, sometimes when we're talking about these big stars in fighting or any other sport, it can easily escape us that they're humans. Yeah. They're people. They have mothers and fathers and challenges and all these emotions and stuff. There's a very good chance, very good possibility Ronda Rousey never fights again. Imagine you are Ronda Rousey. You've had that run. You accomplished those things. You were the baddest woman on the planet. You did all of the stuff you needed to do. You used it to leverage it into making you a television star, a movie star, a celebrity. And then you got your head kicked clean off in Australia. Do you really need to do that again? Yes, when she was on top of her game, she could get to you, take you down, and armbar you. It was a sure thing. But the game has changed, and we just saw footage of her in there training with her old boxing coach, and
her current boxing coach.
Yeah, sure. That guy that holds pads for her, and she didn't look good. Now, you wouldn't look good if you took a lot of time off after a devastating injury and a devastating loss. And, questioning, I mean, you see the hate that poor woman took. You would question a lot of different things. This is the loss, of course. So, hey, man, do not be assured that we'll ever see her fight again. She's a human being. She might not want it.
It's very possible. I mean, you look at Ronda Rousey, and does she necessarily want to come back? She doesn't have to. From a financial standpoint, this woman is set. There is only that desire inside of you that you have something that is unfinished, and whether that is a want of hers or not, that's going to play itself out over the next year.
It all depends on what her motivation has been from the very beginning, because you have to remember, when she started competing in mixed martial arts, I think her first fight was in Canada, same card as Elias Theodoro. There was no women fighting in the UFC, so the idea was just to go compete, use your judo skills and all the mixed martial arts skills that you've acquired to be the best that you could be in a division that really wasn't about making money. As soon as she got her opportunity, she became Strikeforce champion, and then, of course, when the UFC purchased Strikeforce, she became a UFC champion, a huge star. Much like Conor McGregor, a lot of these athletes, the goal, and George St. Pierre, the goal is we are lifelong martial artists. And by having the financial background now that Ronda and Conor and George St. Pierre have, they're able to do that because their name is so big. They can go into any gym basically around the world and get the highest level of instruction and be around martial artists. She has enough money. If she wants to do that, that's what she'll be able to do. But I have a feeling she does want to do this. She never had to get in there in the first place. She wanted to test herself, and I would not be surprised to see her get back inside of the cage. However, dealing with all the haters and all the negativity can certainly leave a bad taste.
The only reason I bring it up is because it isn't brought up. We act like these aren't humans. We act like these aren't people with feelings and emotions and choices and life and children, potentially, all these things. We think of them as playing pieces in our game where we imagine who we could match and what it would do. This is a human being who got kicked in the head and everything in her life changed, and she doesn't owe anybody anything. And the same challenge that people welcome in studying a martial art and in challenging yourself, some find that in learning to be a great actor. Some find that in running business. Some find that in being a mother or a wife or a husband or any of those things. I mean, getting into a cage and fighting in front of thousands of people is not the only way to challenge yourself, even if you're a lifelong martial artist.
True, but at the same time, I would expect a lot of her peers to say, man up, so to speak. Misha Tate's like, yeah, you wrecked my arm I got back in there. You know how many times?
And your answer as a human individual with your own thoughts would be, you, I'll fight you if I, seriously, like, you owe it to me to fight you in a cage in your underpants in front of millions. Human beings don't owe another person the right to beat them up in a cage in front of other people. She can do that if she likes, but any one of us watching this, sitting at this desk, Ronda Rousey or anyone else, can do anything they choose to do, and that includes not fighting if you don't feel like it.
But at the same time, we're talking martial arts, we're talking about honor. You said in your past career, you fought somebody, you bested them, and then you gave them an opportunity to avenge that loss. And I think Ronda Rousey, we know that she's lost, but now, in my opinion, as a martial artist, she should get in there and face off with other fighters so she can show everybody what she's actually made of.
But should and getting to do whatever you want as a human being in a free culture are different.
Okay, let's move on to the other discussion that Dana White had. That was revolving around Conor McGregor, and seems to be less than optimistic about making this rematch. I don't put a whole lot of stock into any of this. I think this is an ongoing negotiation. I think that is and is always going to be the target fight. I don't think Dana White is going to bed dreaming of RDA and Conor McGregor or the winner of Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo. Those will all be fine fights. Those will all draw fine. But the big money is the rematch with Nate Diaz. And I think that this is all, take it for what it's worth. This is a public game of chess involving all three of these parties. And all of them want that fight. It's just the circumstances of how we put that fight together.
Yeah, I think it's Nathan Diaz, because we know Conor McGregor's hugely popular. The UFC understands that. They threw whatever money they needed to ensure they have their biggest stars satisfied. It comes down to Nathan Diaz. All the past conversations he's had with Dana White, the old contract, the new contract, Dana and Lorenzo going to Stockton, it wasn't optimistic. And I think Nate just wants the biggest piece of pie that he can get for this fight. He understands, just like you pointed out, the RDA fight is fine. If he fought Donald Cerrone at 170 pounds, that would be fine. But this is the biggest fight they can make with the biggest star in the organization. Nate wants his big chunk of the pie.
Yeah, and he should get it. Yeah. And you have to know exactly how much leverage you have. If you try to go too far, you will be mistaken. If you go not enough, you don't make as much money as you might like. So he's got to play it just right, does Nate Diaz. But ultimately, if you put Conor McGregor versus inanimate carbon rod, you get all of Ireland come out and you sell 1 million pay-per-views. If you get Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, you sell more pay-per-views, but it's still a big night if you get Conor McGregor and someone else. So Diaz has to play it just right. He made $4 or $5 million by all accounts last time. I'm sure he'd like to double that. Yeah. But if he does about the same or a little more, he's a smart guy. That's a lot of money. And he wants to beat this guy up again.
Final thing, on Friday, it's the unique UFC 199 weigh-ins where we had discussed. They have the earlier 4-hour window to weigh in. And then Mark Raimondi reporting on Thursday that we were under the assumption, everyone was, fighters included, that if you didn't want to weigh in earlier, you could still come at the same time. Well, apparently not. You have to weigh in that 4-hour window between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Pacific time. I will guarantee you that there were some fighters who were finding that out on Thursday, that suddenly I have less time to weigh in. At least that option's now off the table.
If so, those guys were making crazy choices. You want to be as early as possible, because it's not just you weighed in early. Every extra hour when that you made up in difference by weighing in early is an extra hour you get to replenish. So every single one of them should be wanting to weigh in as early as possible.
Well, we're going to find out. The preview show for UFC 199 is coming your way Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with a whole discussion of the card coming your way from Inglewood, California.